Good evening. Today, at least, it looks like sound is sounding and things are back to normal. So, when we left off yesterday, I had got to nearly halfway across my strip of loading bobbins. Well, you will appreciate the slight disappointment in my voice when I tell you that I managed to wind 14 pairs of bobbins during the working day today, mainly during, breaks, listening to co-worker and other things. And I added them to my pillow. They did not get me to the other side. And now I've only got 5 pins left. But when I tell you that's another 20 bobbins, right? It can feel a little depressing after all the bobbins, after all of everything. It's still not quite enough. However, I have 20 empty bobbins with sin hats. And I thought, well, we would do a little bit more like we did yesterday. We would wind some bobbins while having a bit of a chat. And after all, I say it's only 20. Now, in theory, it does not take that long. In practice, it kind of seems to, as we know from yesterday. And my sore hand is still very sore. She says, as the scab is kind of doing its thing. So I might need to give that a squeeze. No, it's just looking scabby. Alright. But we are 20 bobbins away from freedom of winding bobbins. And there's a bit of dog hair flapping at me on my mic. Let's take that up. So, as I said, I added 14 pairs of bobbins. You know what? It really didn't seem to go very far at all. Well, if you think about it, it wouldn't. 14 divided by 2 is 7. So I added 7 whole pins. Which really isn't a lot. Let's truly be honest. So, let's show you where I got to. So, I know the view here is not the best one, as mentioned before about roller pillows, because really you need to look at it from my point of view. But you can't, because, well, that's where I live, right? And I can't really do much to bring the light. Well, I can bring the light a bit closer, and then try and have it look back upon itself, but not by a lot, because, well, things are in the way. And the things are things like itself, okay? It's not a, kick the dog out the way kind of deal. It is because, well, it is. But as you can see, I've added a few more bobbins. I mean, we're like 3/4 of the way there. And yet at the same time, we're kind of not. Right? So my plan was, for today, to wind the 20 bobbins that I got. Because I counted them out and got the hats ready, and, well, that's as far as I got. So, it is awkward because this is kind of in the way of my computer table. And before you say, well, you could move it, well, I have moved it. That's the problem. But I need to be the other end of it, which I'm not usually during streaming. So let's take the elastic bands off. Part of the reason the pins are already in there, so that when we are done with this, I can just hook the bobbins over the pin so we know where we're at. So I need to flatten these out because, well, otherwise they roll around. And they're on my keyboard table. Right. It is. I am sorted, I believe. So, as I said, we've got to wind a few more bobbins to go on the pins because, well, they're empty. And I can't really show you this bit, for which I am sorry. But I do assure you that cranking a handle while a thing go roundy, 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 it doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. You're not entirely missing out here. Snip. Knot. Roll the sin collar up. And there we are. You see, that doesn't take very long. So why does winding so many bobbins take a while? And the answer is because, well, it's very dull and repetitive. And as a result of being dull and repetitive, my brain cells kind of need a break. And so I stop, and like when I was pricking the holes yesterday, I kind of needed to sit up, look around, distract the brain cells for a second, and then go in for a bit more. Not one of my better windings, but there we go. My days of weaving taught me many good ways to wind a bobbin. This was not one of my better ones. So let me do my nautical knot. It's just not his own personal invention, of course, but the manner for which it is being done was shown to me by Nauticat. It will therefore forever be Nauticat Nut, because his works out so much more easily than the other varieties on the same knot. Now, as I demonstrated yesterday, Nauticat's knot, you poke the loop in, say, your left hand downwards. In everybody else's knots, you do really fun. Well, the first one we tried was Mr. Bunny Ears. Now, he's a YouTube video guy, and he's too busy laughing about rabbits and bunny ears, because you do end up with bunny ears, do not get me wrong. But that's kind of... Anyway, Mr. Bunny Ears, for which he will ever be known, finds his own jokes rather amusing. And, well, let's just say he finds them funnier than the rest of us. As a result of finding them funnier than the rest of us, it's quite tedious to watch. Because he's, part of the reason comedians work, for example, is because that while occasionally they do end up laughing at their own jokes, or other people and their reaction to their jokes, for the most part, comedians do not laugh at their own jokes. Or at least not laugh so much that they make no sense. This bloke was very much in danger of not making sense. And while, yes, they do look a little bit by bunny ears in what he does, most of the conversation is bent round bunny ears. And not actually doing the knot and the requirements for the knot. And what to do if it's not looking good, or anything of the sort. And what he does is he puts the two ends between his first thumb and first finger in his left hand. He then takes... They are crossed, so one is behind and one is on front. He takes... The one is that's on top, round his thumb a couple of times, which doesn't really work very well with thread, I can assure you. And a couple of times, and then he kind of goes through between his thumb and forefinger, which kind of works out the same because, well, which does. Hang on, kind of counting. And kind of tucks a bit in, hopes for the best, and to be honest, it failed more than it succeeded for me. Now, I think if you had woolen yarn, if you had bigger yarn, bigger string, it probably, because, you know, if you had like paracord or whatever, it would work pretty well because it's a bit more controllable and all the rest of it. Whereas this stuff twists, turns, wilts, flops, and generally gets on your nerves. As a result, his method was frankly a failure. I then found an alternative knot, for the same knot, by the way, on a woman from YouTube, and she had potentially a much more sensible answer, which was 2 loops. One is just a loop of any form, the other has to have, you know, the tail crossing the top, but the tail crossing the top goes underneath the one coming in on the right. You then poke the thread up, the loop that you made for your left hand, up through the hole that you've got in your right hand, poke the tail through the hole, and pull it all tight. Now, this was working reasonably well, but it is, again, very difficult because stupid, flimsy thread, right? So Naughty Cat had a look for me. And he was interested of her approach to it, because, you know, like anything, a new way to do something is a new way to do something. And he kind of inverted it. He had the loop facing the other way, for which I am now about to demonstrate, for this is a very glorious way of doing the knot. So you make a loop with, once again, this is awkward because you are up there and I am down here. So let's move you down this way a bit. Hang on. That's as far as it wants to go. Alright. So, and how come my hands are halfway over this and it barely shows on sight, but I can see that I've got 99% of the pillow anyway. So you make a loop with this hand, and I try and make a fairly small loop. And with this one, you have it go over the top and down. Gravity, of course, being on our favour. So you have a loop with the tail poking out the bottom. This goes through the top of this loop, like this, and then because of gravity, you can flick the tail up, and the tail is through the loop. You give them a pull, and Naughty Cat's knot has landed, right? And, well, this works basically every time, because gravity is in your favour, and all of those kind of aspects of life. And, well, it's just a thing. It just works. So we like Naughty Cat's version of the knot. Because, well, it does its thing. So you see, this is the kind of disappointing part of this, is having started out and got your thing, you can soon see that it chews through a lot of bobbins per, you know, obviously it's 2 pairs of pin, but you almost don't get a lot for your work of 4 bobbins. Like I said yesterday, you make 2, you work 1, so you work this one down through the list. Like this. Sit still, dog, before I kebab you. She's been really annoying today. So we make this all the way down to the bottom. Well, not the bottom, but the last pinhole of availability in this kind of direction. Like this. That's 2 pins. Like that. And then we need 2 more bobbins. Now, so you notice a theme. It feels, as you do it, that you only use half the bobbins you put on, and 1 bobbin does nothing, because of course it's not true. This bobbin that we did nothing with is the first bobbin that you do with the next pair. So you do something with it, not a lot admittedly, but then of course it becomes further into the work and it kind of disappears. However, wind, flick, oh, I need more bobbins now. You know, it's not, this is not the rewarding part of it. And hence, normally, I don't do this on stream. Because, well, A, I can't show you the windy bit, but B, it's also really boring. And secondly, it's just a bit shit, really. So that's sin collar. There we go. Because already I'm kind of bored of doing this, and I've already done 3. I have, of course, done all of these. So and roughly, except for this top one, and there's 4 here, so there's 3 full ones. That's 21 pairs of bobbins underneath the 6, I think it is, on top. So let's not pretend I haven't done a few. But this is why, I mean, for those who follows my Flanders experiment, we will recognise why this is not being done in Flanders. Because for every pair of bobbins, there's 2 pairs of bobbins in Flanders, and the words no come to mind. Well, that's the thing. So, yeah, don't need to be doing that. That's just not necessary, you know. The only thing would be is that I would be able to arguably do this much further, further apart. So make a much bigger piece with the same pattern. Well, obviously I'd have to print it bigger, but you know what I mean. But of course, technically it's not supposed to be bigger, because it's supposed to be dense and kind of lace on steroids. Which of course is not what you want in a neck curtain, so hence Flanders would not be a good choice. Nor, arguably, is Buck Point for similar reasons. Buck's Point is stretchy. Well, don't really want stretchy lace curtains. That's kind of not how this works. So again, there is this, that's great, but that's not really what you look for. So this is why certain styles of lace are used for different things. The stretchiness of buck's point is very suitable for clothing because it allows for movement of the cloth. But obviously knit curtains, you don't really want it sagging and pulling on itself. Because, well, that would look pretty ugly. So, like everything, I feel that torsion is a good answer to this. There are other varieties that would also work. So, for example, Milanese, Idra, and basically which all seem to be the same shit, ration, where you have wiggly lines and you join the wiggly lines together. The wiggly line methods would work because, again, they are 99.9% cloth stitch with a couple of really strong solid lines between them. Therefore, they don't really stretch. But, of course, they are 90% missing. Well, I kind of want a bit more net-like than that. So, again, I look back at my torsion and I go, yes, this suits this project. It really does. So, it is a thing. And time for a knot. Poke, loop, through a hole. End almost always seems to fall through the hole, which is even better. Slowly slide. Trimmy trim. You possibly need to be slightly longer than the arm. Let's have a look. No, close enough. So, no, that was not the option. You're the option, and then you change places. Now go past the knot, thank you. And then you can work down through like that. Work down through the pins. So the pair, one and a half of this pair is of course the unused one from. See, you should not be apart. So let's undo that. I missed somewhere, somehow. Take you out a sec. I messed that up somehow. You should be together, not apart. So. You're a pair. And of course I can't see what I did or did wrong. Right, so you're at the top. That means you're a pair and you're a pair. Yes, you're a pair. So now you send you over here. The pair is technically not important. However, it is that check sum of are they going to hold together kind of thing, right? when I take the pins out. Because I do have a fear that I screwed a couple of the starts up, and that when I take the pins out, it's all going to fall apart. Just because, well, Murphy's Law applies, right? That. Right. So, why did I leave the big V in the middle? Well, that's because that's where the spiders are going. And I thought, well, it would be nice if you got to see them. Now, I can't complete the spider until I've done at least this spider here. But I can start the spider. But personally, I would like to complete the spider in the middle before getting too carried away on the edges. So, as I work down, it will kind of be a V shape like that, then it will be like an M shape, and, you know, it will kind of continue in that kind of vein across the works. So, all these bobbins are getting a bit much, but they are this half of the spider. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get 2 pairs of bobbins. I was wrong. It was not 6. It was 5. So that's 28 pairs of bobbins in my pile, and still many on the pillow. So as you can see, there are 28 bobbins up there. 29, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we need 12 more. So, it is quite a lot of bobbins for a strip. And it's not a particularly wide strip. Hence the likelihood of making a hull neck curtain in one piece from scratch at this time remains thin. Because, or at least not done in infinitely small thread. Doing it in really fat thread, so you only have a couple of pins a centimetre kind of thing, then there is an option. Just because it'll work out real friggin' quick, but also because you're not dealing with infinitely small threads. You'd be dealing with more like my weaving cotton, which, as I said, is quite big, but could look nice on, say, patio windows, where the patio window, of course, being a really big window, it can take a heavier duty look to it, because you're not really doing it for privacy, because it's your own gun. You're doing it just to maybe stop the birds flying into it, which I get quite a few of. And so, you know, I reserve right to do something, say, like this, but on a huge scale, you know, almost using Nauticelt-sized ropes there, to do the ones for the window. So I have a patney on the window, but that almost doesn't block out a lot of light, because it's 99% hull, but will make up really, really quick. So that could be within my future. Actually, let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We won't be using you for 3 minutes, so let me grab another stick and put you on the pile, because then you're out the way. I will need some of these back in a minute So, you know, I'm not under the illusion that I'm done with these for a minute. But if I put them up there, look how much more controlled my space is. But that pile is precarious, of course, so let's not pretend that that's not a thing. I mean, you think flat piles of flat things would be good, but mostly, as we know, flat objects can have an amazing ability when they want them. So yes, brains. I have had, you know, like when you've got a cold, and like the idea of spelling it or I seems challenging. And when I say I mean like the letter I, and your brain's almost not sure it can achieve that. This is kind of where my brain's been out all day, and normally I am, when I wake up, I'm as good as I get, and I am, you know, fairly compos mentis from the off. Today it's like my brain's got lag, and I'm not sure whether it's receiving all commands, you know? It's not a thing. So I don't know whether I'm trying not to have some lurgy or something, and that the rest of me is unaware of this, but something's, you know, brain seems to be thinking something's happening, but kind of today's one of those days where, frankly, staring out the window and drooling gently would have been a challenge, you know? Definitely not my best day. But it is Tuesday today, right, guys? Please tell me. Someone tell me it's Tuesday today. For it is only a 4-day week here in the UK of working. Which is, frankly, a glorious thing. Especially when I book next week off. So I will be, and apparently it's like the world knew. Loads of stuff's come up for next Friday, and of course I'm not going to be there. Shame that, isn't it? Co-worker I'm shadowing at the moment. Mainly out of idle curiosity rather than necessity, but, you know, volunteering and all that. He's got lots on at the moment, and I'm sitting there going, that's a shame. and everything that's been planned for him, it all seems to be kicking off on Friday, and it's like, oh, that's a shame for you. Yeah, I'll try and remember you while I'm, not working. Tomorrow I have an interesting meeting with some people who decided to announce today that they want to do some work over the weekend. Yeah, whatever, fill your boots. Oh, but we need you guys to do some stuff. Well, you can need all you like. For the problem is, it's not in our contract. And they didn't appreciate it when they were told that, well, that relies on the goodwill of people in the team. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. They really didn't like that at all. Oh, we can't have it relying on goodwill. Then you'll need to pay for it, won't you, honey? Because you've always had it on goodwill, and, well, maybe the goodwill fairy has run out. Yes, maybe the goodwill fairy has felt they've done their bit and is not in the mood today. And so it doesn't have to. And boss, for once, will stand by us and say, they don't have to. So I was asked, well, should it be an Eid weekend, should it be next weekend, for example? Would you be willing? I went, no, I'm on holiday. Oh, yeah. Well, but working on the principle that you meant, should it be a weekend that I'm not on holiday? Am I willing? Not really, but am I happy? No, happy is definitely not the word. I do not wish to give any more hours than I have to. Am I prepared for the event that I may have to? Yes. But happy? No. Wanting? No, not at all. Reluctantly accepting? Yes. So, this is where we left off. In that, no, I've not refused to do it, but at the same time, I don't really want to. Please beware, I really, really don't want to. So, and to be honest, he totally understands and agrees, and because I said to him that my previous stance was, if you're not prepared to pay for anything other than Monday to Friday, I'm not prepared to give you anything other than Monday to Friday, so no. And he really, frankly, didn't see a problem with it. Which is quite pleasant, because in the past, I've had bosses who... I actually had one boss, so let's say for sake of the argument, like I booked next week off. But let's just pretend it's a random week. So, normal working week this week, normal working week next week. My boss would actually... The guy in question... So let's say Friday afternoon, because bear in mind, as you well know, we don't work Friday afternoons, because we've done our hours by then. He would say things like, so obviously, from my point of view, my holiday starts 12 o'clock Friday, on a normal working week. He once actually had the cheek to say to me that, about working a Friday night, and I went, well, I'm on holiday, and he went, you're not booked off till Monday. Well, no, darling, because they're my hours anyway. I don't have to book them because they're mine. And he was adamant that your holiday doesn't start until like 9 o'clock on Monday morning, So, yes, that's always fun. Needless to say, I disagreed with him on that one. Because, no, boss, I am not booking from Friday afternoon through Monday off because, well, it's my time. I can do what I like with it. And my like is not including working extra hours unpaid, you know. He didn't agree. We did agree to disagree, but he didn't agree. Because in his mind, your holiday only starts for the hours you've booked. A previous manager, Tim, would have said a similar thing, to be honest. But we had a bit of a comeback for that. His predecessor used to say, book next week off. But he wouldn't book any days off this week because, you know, he's booking next week off. But he would travel down tomorrow night. Not Thursday night, tomorrow night. And, quote, there's no reception or internet where he was going. Well, so then you need... but then he'd leave at lunchtime tomorrow and set off at like 1, 2 in the afternoon. Well, then you need to book tomorrow afternoon and Thursday off both. So he had quite a few extra days in his time off. In you know, claiming that, you know, he was only off next week, but he was also completely unreachable for the preceding 2, sometimes 3 days, you know, and it was kind of like, not sure that's quite what they meant, boss. So, of course, if he'd ever said that to me, I'd have just said, well, you go 2 days before your holiday in working time, so I feel I'm giving you extra hours by working until my end of my working day. He did get caught out at one point. I think he got in quite a bit of trouble. We didn't stop him doing it. Because the problem was his manager is American. And so obviously... Hello! His manager being American didn't... You know, obviously normally, given that we work from like 7 till 12 on a Friday... wasn't up yet, so didn't know if he didn't work on the Friday. So if he travelled down and kind of frigged it for Thursday afternoon, unless they caught him Thursday, we would have gotten away with it anyway, so... How are you, Fleecenby? Yeah, I'm tired. I had a bit of a nap before this, and because I've been following a co-worker and learning new things. And while I'm not directly learning things, so I am more just observing them doing it, going, okay, so why did you call it that? What did you mean by this word? And generally just getting a gist of what is going on. It's still pretty tiring. And I proved I was awake a few times, so, you know. I've just realised it's not talking to me. Why are you not talking to me? You're running. Well, you were. Apparently now you're not. It was talking to me. Now it's not. I just closed it by mistake. You know how that can be. I just happened to be looking at the chat thing as you said hello, and I realised it's not talking in my ear. There you go. If you say something now, it should talk in my ear. I would appreciate it if someone would try that for me. Right, last 2 pairs of bobbins. It is working now. Thank you, Flusenby. That's what I needed. It's always good when everything's working. So yes, Lucifer, I'm very tired too. Very tired. So this isn't going to be the world's longest stream today, even though we've done rapidly encroaching on an hour. Doesn't feel like we got very far, but you know, that's the way this prep goes. So. And that's how I often view it. It's, you know, even when you're not in the mood and you kind of would rather, you know, take it down the bottom of the garden and set light to it, even if that's the mood you're in, if all you do, you know, for every stitch or whatever it is that you are working with, if you do some, any, it is some or any that future you does not have to do. So, as long as you don't screw them all up and it has, the future you then has to undo them all. As long as you do roughly what you should have done, and it's acceptable, future you then doesn't have to do it. So, wow. Yeah, sitting on a bus, coach, whatever you want to call them where you are, it is, because there's kind of nothing better to be doing, it's a little easier to concentrate. There aren't YouTube videos of cats and people popping up in Discord chats and to talk to and showing you pictures of things that you might like to buy and doom scrolling. And I mean, you can still doom scroll on a bus, but it is easier to concentrate. It's like flying in an aircraft. If you're stuck in an aircraft, bear in mind most of that is from memory because I was, 16 last time I sat in an aircraft and went anywhere. But, you know, we did like an 8... Yeah, so he's hardly, you know, the height of friendship and excitement to have a great chat with because, well, he's got his head shoved up his phone and, you know, it might as well be some weirdo stranger that you don't want to talk to because, you know, I mean, other than you know him and you can poke him hard in the ribs. But if he's going to stick his head in his phone or, you know, stick his ears in or something and then totally blank you for the journey, you know, it might as well be that, you know, it might as well be your arch enemy for all that it matters. So having something good to do is always a good thing. Audiobooks are my thing, as a general rule. I really love a good audiobook. And shout out to Sean, who often streams for Monsters and Memories. In fact, he is the core streamer for Monsters and Memories. He is the boss, after all. But he put me on a book that I'm really enjoying. Now, normally, I listen to books as I'm falling asleep. So I have it play for like 20 minutes. And depending on how quickly or don't I fall asleep, depends on how much the book I hear. The problem is at the moment, because I've been tired, I kind of go, oh yes, I remember. I rewind it like, 20 minutes. Oh yes, I remember. And I'm basically re-listening to the same bit of book every day because I remember like the first 2 minutes and then I'm asleep. But it is a very good book. I'm enjoying it. Well, that's again the same reason for the audiobook. I have my bitch face device read me a story. So I've got a routine. No, but hear me out on this one. Remember, of course, when you were little, Mummy read you a bedtime story, right? Well, this is bitch face reading you a bedtime story. And what you do is you plug it in, you set a sleep timer for, say, 20 minutes. You then tell bitch face to read your latest audiobook that you were reading. Read my book from audio. And she goes off, she grabs the book, she reads you 20 minutes of it. And I've got another one so I've got two functions that I've made on her. One is to go to sleep, which shuts off all the lights that might be on, and then start the book. And the other one is just to continue with another 20 minutes of the book. And the reason for that is occasionally I do not fall asleep in the allotted time. So as a result of not falling asleep in the allotted time, I have it set so that I can easily get another 20 minutes and another 20 minutes and another 20 minutes. But literally it kind of other than turning the lights off, it sets a sleep timer for 20 minutes and starts my book from Audible. Because over the time, sometimes the thing hasn't stopped speaking, even though it's got a thing saying, stop everything after 20 minutes. Or there's an option on the speak the Audible thing, and you can say stop after 20 minutes. That doesn't work either. But if you tell it to do a sleep timer for 20 minutes and then tell it a task that it's going to keep doing, that does seem to work. So that's where I'm at with that. For some reason, I don't feel like I did my thing there, so I'm going to do that. So yes, I am rather pleased with this audiobook. So I will have to get you the name of it. But it's a good book. I really enjoy it. And as an audiobook, the guy doing the voices is really quite good at it, because there are some female voices and they really sound very feminine. They don't sound like a bloke doing just a slightly different voice. It sounds very feminine. It sounds like it's a full cast job, but it's not. It's one dude reading the book. So from that point of view, I really like that, because it makes it very listenable. He's got different voices for different people, and it makes it quite easy to follow along. Very enjoyable. And 20 minutes of that is doing good. So let me find out. What does that say? Oh, new drops. Okay. Let me find this. Hang on. Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. He's the book is, dude, there's a series. I'm obviously on book 1. And as I said, it is, how do I explain it? It's not going to be an everybody book. Not everybody in the world is necessarily going to love it quite the way I do. The reason being, it's like it's a game in effect, but in a book. So the guy finds himself in a game. I'm going to say this because it's nothing like it, but it's something most people have heard of or watched. If you ever saw the film Tron, whether you saw the original one or the friggin' Arnie version, it's a bit like that, where he finds himself in a game, and it's the story about him, funnily enough, in a dungeon. And so as a result, that this dude arrives in a dungeon, and it's kind of like a mobile game version of a dungeon. So you get achievements for, like, you have entered your first room. Here is an achievement, right? You have hit a mob. Here is your achievement, right? You have killed your first mob. Here is an achievement. And it's done in kind of a patronising voice, which I find kind of amusing. And but there are, the kind of the announcer dude for the achievements is very much a voice, and there are NPCs and all sorts, and obviously there are lots of different characters within the book, and so I find it kind of fun. I am enjoying it a lot, and I'm really glad that Sean mentioned it. And he asked the other day how I was finding the book, and I hadn't started it back then, and it was like, yeah, I haven't actually got around to it. I keep meaning to, I will. And so I started it, and then during the playtest over the weekend, there were some people, let's call it trying my patience, because as you know, I don't really have a lot of that. And I sent a message to him, and he was going, how's the book? And I said, oh, it's great. Most of these people wouldn't survive chapter 1. And it had him and his wife laughing because, well, they both done the book. But it's true. These people would not have survived. Yeah, I mean, I tried very hard to do Discworld as an audiobook, and I struggled. I tried the Discworld series as audiobooks. I've got 90% of them as audiobooks, but I did struggle with that. I think in part because of the reader. Now, this is obviously one of the things about audiobooks is you do need a decent reader. Now, I'm not saying that the dude who they got was a shit reader, because that's not what I said. But for me, he was not the right reader. Now, I don't know who is the right reader, but because obviously some people work better than others. So, but one thing I have noticed, and I don't know whether if it's because I'm female or not, but one thing I struggle with especially are female book readers for audiobooks. I really struggle with some of those because, well, I just really struggle with some of those. Their voices are just a bit tinny, just a little bit. They just don't work right for me. They're just not working as well as perhaps they could. And why are you not? Why are you... See, this has made a big Y shape, and it should not be making a big Y shape, which means I've got to undo it all. Thanks for that. But fortunately, I only have to undo this one, so... let's go back and see what's wrong with you, and wonder why you... Oh, I see why. No, I don't. I think you are round a pin. Yes, you are. That's why. Like that. Put you back in the middle. See, this is the surprise, is that somehow, even with all of the pins and the things and the... It's... Oh, bye-bye, Foos and V. Thanks for coming, though. Oh, dear dog. I am so sorry that it is so stressful a life for you. How do you cope with all of that hard sleeping you need to do, and all of the strokes and the treats and the petting you have to put up with? How do you do it? It must be torturous for you. Now you're going to get precarious because of where you are and the fact that there are not many bobbins, and you are hooked over things you shouldn't be, and so are you. You seem to be under. How are you under there? That you are. Your collar's come off. That's why you are being irritating, because you've lost your knot and your collar. That's why you're all confused and in a tiz. Now, where are all these threads coming from and going? Like that. You need to go in there like that. You need to come back. You can go up like that for a minute. Right. So, don't want to turn it too much because I've got to work back up there, but if I turn it a little bit, I can encourage some of these threads out of the pins. Right, so I can tuck you out the way a minute. You need to go in there like this. No one said this was going to be an easy pattern, by the way. It's just slightly imaginative. And then this one goes here, like this, in the corner. Like that. So, we now have all of our stuff for the biggie in the middle. So we will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Make a split there. You underneath. Like that. Put you over there, out the way. You are also to be out the way. And you can go over there because we don't need you for this. Now, we now need lots of you. Lots of you. So we can worry about you in a minute. Stick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And stick. Not that I'm short of these sticks, but I've ordered some more sticks just for good measure. Because, well, you know, that's a good thing. So we need some of these. And you were the one that was trying to get away. So let's now shorten you to length a little bit. That looks a bit better. You feel a little short now I've wound you forward, but that's okay. In fact, I am going to undo that wind forward for a minute. There we go. So that I can see. So I need you two and you two. You can slide off to the side for a minute. So. Hello, my dear, dear lady. How are you? Well, I keep saying lady. I don't think you are, actually, are you? For some reason, neck kisser always makes me think of a lady. Whether that's true or not is another matter. But neck kisser, my dear friend, how are you? What are you up to at the moment? Well, I mean, my normal handle on the internet is bug finders, right? Well, that's really genderless. So, occasionally, if someone's being an arse and they go, "Look, dude," and I'm like, "Not a dude." But normally I don't care, right? Normally I don't care if you call. But if you're being an arse, well, then I care, right? Now you got to get it right. If you're going to insult me, at least do it with style, right? But I had in the back of my mind, I thought you were, and then my brain kind of went, and what if you're wrong? Said brain, you know, so that was a thing. Right. Now I need 2 more. And take that into account, actually. I don't know what you mean. I don't really do romantic ones, but what always annoys me is when you find, like, I mean, short videos annoy the crap out of me. Usually because you can never find the long version of it. or it's hidden behind a paywall. But there's been a few where, you know, I'm a secret billionaire, you know, kind of moments. And I'd have casually watched that. Without a doubt. But you find a bunch of the shorts and it's kind of like, here's part 1, here's part 2, which is a little bit of part 1 but part 2. Here's part 3, which is a bit of part 1 and part 2 and a bit of 3. Here is part 4, which is 1, 2 and 3 and like a very tiny bit of new information. And here's part 5, which is basically a recap of the last 4. No, I want to see the thing. I want to know what happens next. But I don't want to pay you money just to find out. If we go back this way, you also need 3 twists. Going that way. You've had 3 twists, that's okay then. You now need to come in. You go this way. And... Oop, someone's singy in my garden. I do occasionally think I get a nightingale in my garden. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but it's too tuneful for it to be a lot else, if you know what I mean. I am not the bird fanatic of the year, so hence, could be wrong. But it very much... I know blackbirds can be really tuneful, but this is not a blackbirdy sound. But they're off. They're really, really off. But it's quite dark out. But it's not an alert call. It is a tuneful, happy kind of moment. Fair enough. It sounds very much like the same shit that I kind of want to watch, but I'm a bit reluctant to pay up for, to be honest. Yeah, but it's split over lots of tiny increments, you know. Mind you, I've watched some shockingly bloody awful movies. There are a lot of movies I've watched in my time where... How do I explain this? You watch the movie and... It feels like a bit of a slow start movie. You know, slow starts aren't always bad things, right? Slow start movie. And then just as you've kind of established who everyone is and what they're doing and why they're doing it and where they're going, the credits come up and you kind of go... Oh, but... Is there a part 2? And the answer is no. No, that was it. And you're kind of going... So I remembered all those assholes and all what they were doing and why they were doing and where they were and what they were going and there was no actual point. well, cheers. It feels like doing tests at school when you know the kind of thing where teacher would give you a load of stupid things to remember, and then you'd come in and you know as a test. So, how big was the red ball? That was 10 centimetres. But I don't need to know that. No one in the world needs to care. It was one of those kind of moments. It was... I know the kind you mean. I do know the kind you mean. Me and my ex-husband have a never watch this list. And frankly, top of that list for me, I've watched some shockingly bad movies. Now, there are shockingly bad movies that are good because they're shockingly bad. And that sounds really weird, but if you watch, like, an action movie that, half the scenery moves and the actors forget their lines and, half their uniform falls off or something, you can have a good laugh at it, right? Because, well, it's shockingly bad. It's for us, it is mainly the high-budget bad movie. So the actual movie is fairly well made. It's just a movie that should never have made it to the world, right? It's not even a straight-to-video movie. It is a movie that should have been stayed as someone's dream that night because it was shit. And for me, I'm sorry, universe, A Quiet Place, and I'm not even going to watch A Quiet Place 2 because I'd rather watch The Human Centipede again. And that's in there too. I have never hated a film so much as I hate A Quiet Place. Trying to work out how best to do this because there is not going to be an easy way. I'm going to have an awful lot of bobbins on my pillow and I don't know if they fit. Anyway. Let's try doing you. Anyway. But yeah, A Quiet Place. There was just so much wrong with that film. And I think if certain things had changed, and arguably in a way quite minor things, it could have been a good film. But there's a guy at work who absolutely loves A Quiet Place. He absolutely loves it. And it, and it's kind of like, how can you love it? How can you love a movie with that many glaring mistakes in it? So, for those who have not seen A Quiet Place, spoiler alert, skip forward, plug your ears for a couple of seconds. I do know what you mean. I've also watched, I don't know whether it is the exact same shit you're watching, but there was one that was kind of doing the short video rounds on Facebook and YouTube, and it was basically they don't know I secretly own this company, and they were treating them like shit. And I saw the exact same episodes done by two completely different casts. And you're kind of going, yeah, I know the story on this one. And some of the actors have got the qualities of school children on their acting debut, Yeah, I do, because, to be honest, I actually think it's a thing that should happen a lot more in real life. That CEOs should come and do a shitty job at the bottom and realise what it's like to work in their company. Because too many of them, sit in their little ivory tower making rando decisions and have no idea what it's like to be the man at the bottom. Because, when they announce like a 1% pay rise, well, yeah, I'm so glad that you're, a 1% pay rise. But 1% pay rise for you, Mr. CEO, is £1 million. Well, if I got an extra million this year, hallelujah. Fuck, I've never had £1,000,000. So, you know, let's be real here. Whereas, for the man at the bottom on minimum wage, that's like 10p. And, you know, barely, and doesn't even cover his bus fare to get to work once, let alone every day of the year. And I do think, and so I do think that, I know that there's been a few shows done on TV about it, where they've, you know, secretly sent in the boss to companies to find out, you know, what it's like to be at the bottom, or what it's like for their customers, or any of those things. And I always find it a bit odd when, what do you mean you don't know what the leader of your company looks like? I mean, I did work for a very big company. I know what the bloke looks like. I mean, I could probably pass him in the street, but if he came in and I was staring at him for more than 20 seconds, I would recognise him. So how do they not? How do they not know what their boss looks like, you know? I mean, I can understand if you're a new member of staff, you wouldn't necessarily know what the boss looks like. Or you might want to go, that can't be the boss, you've got to be kidding, you know, kind of moment. But, yeah, it's the secret boss kind of thing. I think should actually happen a lot more, because, you know, they need to know what actually goes on, because, and this is something that many people and I have talked about over the years, is that when it comes to, you know, the end of the year, and, you know, you and your boss sit down for your appraisal, when does his boss ever ask you what it's like to work for the guy? Because they never get that feedback. And yay for Cargill, you've got your car back. That's great news. I'm not sure the bill for it was necessarily such great news, but, you know, let's be frank. I'm not so sure you were pleased to have the bill, but that's probably just as well. It was the same when I took Madam down the vet. It was honestly, do not tell me how much, just take the money. I don't want to know. But she'd already said how much it was, so I knew. But it's kind of like, no, I do not want a receipt to remind me, thank you. For it will be on my bank statement, and I will forever hold it against her, you know. But you'll be glad to know she's not limping anymore, so whatever it was is definitely nothing serious, so we are pleased that that is the case. Because, frankly, the cost of getting imaging done was, you know, she'd have to go and sell drugs down at the dock or something, you know, to cover it, because I don't have that kind of money. Well, I can afford to pay it, I just don't want to. You know, it's a large amount of money that would have other things. That sounds pretty. I know how much mine would cost because I paid for them. We had platinum. Yeah, we had platinum rings. Yeah, that was such a wise choice. We had identical his and hers platinum rings. So, I need to squeeze 2 more sets of bobbins on the other side. Is there really room for this many more bobbins? But there are only 3 of these in a strip. That's to be fair. So. I'm going to need most of you, aren't I? 4, yeah, everything bar 2, so all of you, and then you to go down the outside, so let's Running out of space a little here. So. Did I not twist you? Did I not twist you? Wow. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I think we made it to 5. You see, that gap and that gap do not look the same. Bite me. Right. No. Like that. That doesn't feel right. Somehow it's not right. For goodness sake. Let's undo this then. So obviously you are not the pair I meant. So, somehow, that's why you are like that. And then like that. Well, and I kind of with you on this, and to be honest, I was once asked an opinion about what my friend should get his potential, well, his girlfriend of the time, now wife of many years, but his potential girlfriend as an engagement ring. And it was like, mate, she loves the pants off you. If you gave her bent fuse wire, I mean, you know, it's not great for showing off to the mates, but mentally she will be happy with that because she was that kind of girl, right? And that made him chuckle. But it was very true. His girlfriend is a very practical lady, and it meant that, you know, he bought her a ring, he bought her a lovely ring. But the reality was that if he had spent 100 quid or 10 grand on it, she would not have told the difference. And I'm the same. I'm a bit like you. You know, if you make it really expensive, I won't want to wear it because I'll be scared of damaging it. And if you do, and if you don't spend a lot of money on it, I won't really notice. You could have a piece of coloured glass for all that really matters to me. So don't waste your money on it. And this is why my dad and I always had a bit of a thing about presents, to be honest, which was that we didn't really do presents for birthdays and Christmas. Well, yeah, I very much can understand that. Exactly. You know, if someone said to you, your ring costs $30,000, you'd never go out with the thing on. You'd go out only with an armed, troop of armed guards. And only on special occasions, It, for me, an engagement ring is all about the sentiment and not about the price tag. But there was a load of short videos that did the rounds recently, and it was like, well, how much should a guy spend on an engagement ring? And all these little gold diggers were going, oh, it's got to be at least 100,000, and it's got to be 3 times his salary. And it's like, no, it doesn't. I can tell you now, I am fairly confident that the ring I got as my engagement ring, arguably would have had change from, quite a bit of change from £1,000. But I don't have a problem with that, because it's not a practical ring for me. If it had been really delicate and expensive and overly luxurious, it was a stupid choice for me. So I don't want one that costs, 20 grand and no, because, well, then it's just kind of stupid. To an extent almost, well, I didn't need an engagement ring because, well, I don't really wear jewellery, so, let's truly be honest. Exactly! Well, and that's the thing. This is the thing about it. It's an engagement ring. You're going to wear it for, a year? And then it's kind of like an accessory to murder, right? Do not be spending house money on it. Spend it on the house, the car, These days, the wretched wedding. It is too easy to spend a lot of money. It's all right, Rory. It's all right. It's all right. It's too easy to spend a lot of money that doesn't help anybody. Let's not, Let's not pressure them into making blokes feel like they've got to spend an arm and a leg on a ring that... Well, there is a bit of that. I very much agree with that. I didn't even know putting your names on it was a thing. Oh, hang on, we've got a spam bot. Hang on. Spam bot, spam bot. I can put that away now. We've got all of our... Well, and that's always a problem. It is your ring after all. If you are not allowed to decide what you do with your ring, it's not really your ring now, is it? Or at least if hubby doesn't get to decide what he feels is appropriate for you, because obviously he knows you better than some dude at the jewellery store. If you can't decide for yourselves that you don't want, Mount Everest of diamonds on your ring, and... Of course you can, darling. Yes, there is. On the 28th of February, so on a leap year, it is historically claimed that women can ask the men. Now, of course, nothing actually stops them normally, but there is kind of the in-joke that on the 28th of February, women can ask the men. That's the one. Okay. Yeah, sorry, it is the 29th here too. So I was just wondering why that one looks crossed over and not parallel. I don't know if you can see that. Hang on. Zoomy zoom. I zoom up a bit. Hopefully this will zoom up far enough. There you go. I know again you can't see overly clearly because of the angle, but if you look at this one, this is two lines, although there's a pin in kind of your way. Let me see if I can move the pin slightly. No, not that pin. It's going to be that pin maybe. That pin. There you go. So here you can see that there's two very much straight lines. This doesn't look like two straight lines. It is. It's just not looking like it. There you go. Give it a wiggle. That's what it needs. You see, I begrudge. I mean, I don't have a problem with tradition, but I do begrudge wasting money for the sake of it. Now, over here, currently, apparently, the average wedding costs £35,000. When we got married, the average wedding cost about 15. I paid for everything to do with the wedding, and I mean everything bar one thing. I did not pay for the cake. The cake was bought by my parents-in-law. We were present, but the cake was paid for by the parents-in-law, and there was kind of change of 100 notes. I can tell you now, with a hand... Mine didn't even cost that. So, let me explain. I had a handmade dress. The blokes, i.e. groom and best man, top hat and tails. We had a church. We had bells. We had choir. We had choristers. We had an E-type Jag as our wedding car. We had a reception. We had food at the reception. What else did we really need? And so, if I tell you, cost of that, less than £2,500. We didn't... Well, I actually got mine made by a wedding dress making company. There's a store in the local town that sell wedding dresses, and I wanted in there, and I had hoped, arguably, to rent one because, well, I'm only intending to use it for a couple of hours, so, a bit reluctant to spend a lot of money on it. And sure indeed, I could have rented a dress. But if I say to you Charleston dresses, basically they were long things with a bit of frill that kind of came halfway down your thigh, and I'm sorry, I looked like a sack of potatoes in them, and that was the only kind they had for rent. So, I had a dress made. And in fact, it was more expensive than it need be because my arms, this was a couple of years after having chemo, and my arms still had bruises from having warfarin injections. And so to mask that, I wanted a kind of coat that went over top. Well, and this is the thing. My dress, I still have it. My dress was... made not out of the cheap stuff. It was perfectly good stuff. It was, it had a lace coat over the top. Not handmade lace, admittedly, but kind of neck curtain-y style lace over the top as a coat to mask and, kind of act as a coat but without adding any heat and too much weight to it. So it was kind of a coat with a train so that kind of all formed the same thing. I didn't have a train of any great length. Please do not think that I had like Princess Diana shit. Well, I'm about the same, heavier too, so I wouldn't want to try and fit in it. But it was one of those things, is that, this dress cost me, I think it was about £1,200. It was very reasonable. Now, I know 1,200 quid is a lot of money, but it was the primary expense for the wedding. Well, if I can do that and I can have handmade dress by other people, not by myself, so, I'm not arguably cutting the cost down by doing a lot myself, all I really had to do was, collect everything and show up, right? All he had to do was collect his top hat and tails and show up. The best man had to collect his top hat and tails and show up. My dad had to show up, right? Everything else got sorted. And we had change from £2,500. So how in the name of mercy are people making it, at the time, £15,000? What were you buying? Did you buy the church? I mean, we had an organ, we had choir, we had bells, because they're all addable extras. It wasn't even a registry job. It was in a church, so we had to rent the church. I'm sorry, but how do you have it more expensive? I mean, no, I didn't have a makeup artist. No, I didn't have bridesmaids and stuff, and obviously that will add considerably to it. But I didn't really want children at the wedding, and thankfully there weren't any to come, so it was nice and easy. Well, I've got experience of making dresses. I made my school uniform a couple of times as a child. So it's not that I can't, but, with all the other stuff in life that goes on, it was much easier to pay someone else to do it. And to be honest, knowing that they'd do it and get it right, whereas, like you say, you have to design your dress. Unlike a lot of... Oh, blimey, that's annoying. And, to become allergic to something, that's really got to suck. That really is super unfortunate. To become allergic to effectively something that you enjoy. I mean, if you don't enjoy it, allergy away, life, make my day. But it's right, I'm just making sure I do these in the right order. But to have it taken away from you, kind of by force, is never a fun aspect. It's like people who were gymnasts, because I was a gymnast as a kid, but yeah, but even then, as you say, she can do it as a hobby, but probably she can't do big projects. She can only do kind of short-term projects, or she can only do it she can do it over a long period of time, but in very small chunks or something, to try and help keep the allergen issue down, and after dosing herself with a healthy amount of Piriton or something. So I just got to try and scrunch these up a little bit. For some reason, you're not wanting to scrunch very well. There we go. In fact, you're not wanting to scrunch very well at all, are you? Why are you not wanting to scrunch? Let's scrunch you up that way a bit. Anyway. Good night, neck kisser. Thank you for coming. Right. That's a little bit bulkier than I'd like, but it will probably work out a bit when we go through the edges. And as you are already here, let's do you. So you can scoot out the way. you join with you. And you need to be a bit longer. Scoot pin. And this is looking a little bit ropey, but it will do for a minute. Sort you out a little bit. Did I twist you? I'm sure I did. Did I do extra twists? Yes, I did. That's all right then. It's just the way it is. Right. And then move you over there. Move you over there. Scoot you up. 3. 1, 2, 3. And then you come down here. Yes. Now I need to do you, but I can arguably get rid of a bunch of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'll put you out the way for a minute to make a bit of space. Which means you come down here like that. I now need 4 of you. You have your twists. That's good. You come down like that. You get a pin. And then I need you. Then we join you. And we scoot you. And we put in a pin. cute. And then we join you. You need to be a bit longer. Now I really do need to move you up one, but you are lurking on it, so I need to do that. There we go. So I get a bit of an angle for this bottom one. And now I need 4 of you. Thank you very much. Everyone's got their twists, that's fine. You can go back in. Most of you can go back in. So I've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I need you to stay out. But I'm going to put you back in because that makes my life easier. Like this. Put you back in a stick so that you're out of the way. Like that. But preferably not amongst the pins. Thank you. Right on the front of the pins, if you don't mind. So, swapping you over. There is a bit of me that says for this one in the middle that these kind of crossings that you naturally form are sufficient. And the whole making it a spider thing makes it a bit crowded. With the body and the legs and things. You to go in this stick. For you now have your 7. You go in there. And then we need you from here to do this side. You arrive at the bottom to seal off the bottom of the spider, like this. So, there's our big spider. Does it look perfect? No. Will it do? Yes. So, now of course this does not divide by 7. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Of course, there's like one frigging thing too many. Of course there is. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Not wishing to push my patience and for this to go on too long. But we have done our middle square. We have introduced all of our bobbins now. We have some semblance of order. I know it doesn't particularly look like it, but, well, technically we do. It's not looking so bad. We have a lot of bobbins, though. Big Monty pile of bobbins. So what I will do to try and keep you kind of, you know, in shape is pull you forward so that you are in a flattish, not a pile, but a big pile like that. And I will take a photograph of my flattish pile because, well, that's definitely a thing. So, like that. Lots of bobbins. That can be the thumbnail. Anyway, as you can see, maybe not as well. So let me make this window bigger so I can see what you see. Oh, you can see fairly well. It does look a little different to as it comes out on the pillow as it did on the sheet paper. As you can see, the kind of direct diamonds here get a bit more wonky. So that one looks really quite... These two look really pulled in compared to their predecessors, but they're not. Which is part of the reason I think it looks a little weird that they're spiders, because it makes it look like it's in the wrong place, and it's not. As I said, if the threads just crossed and so would have followed the direct line, you know, those two that come in there would have done a bit of a jiggery pokery to cross there, done, you know, crossy cross, and come straight out the other side, it would probably look a lot smarter, in my humble opinion. But, you know, it doesn't look that bad. It really doesn't. We need to do some work up here so that I can roll this now over the top and catch the sides up and bring them down again before we do the middle bit. I mean, to be honest, you can do the sides first, or the middle first, or the middle first and the sides. But obviously you need enough of the sides to come down to make the middle bit, so I do have to do some of them at some point. There is, you know, only so many choices in the world. And because we had the big diamond in the middle, I needed to have all the feeds in to make the diamond. Once I've made the diamond, I can now make all the bits around it. I could have done it on the fly, so I could have, you know, maybe done this row of spiders and kept going, and then this bit and kept going, and then this bit and kept going. But obviously that starts working down here when you haven't done up here, and it's very difficult to work across. I mean, it is possible. I did it with the Bucks Point stuff. It is a bit easier in Bucks Point to do that. But, you know, I do need to do the top right hand corner. Is it going to look great? I don't think it's going to look bad. It might look a little overly crowded. Maybe, you know, in reality there should have been more of a gap between the big diamond of the spider there and the ziggy zaggy bits at the edge. Only time will entirely tell. You know, maybe I didn't need to go quite that big with the spider in the middle. Could have done something a bit smaller, like the smaller one below. That would have been fine. We shall see. We shall see. After all, technically it's a test strip. I did say technically. I'm sure there are mistakes in it. I'm looking up top and I'm sure there are some mistakes in it. So, for example, those two there look like they should be twisted and they're not. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, such is life. Anyway, you know, I can't see it from here. It's behind 1,000 pins. So, but I shall. On that note, I shall leave you for today, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.